All right, everybody ready to get rolling? Good deal. Good deal. Hey, my name is Sam McGahee. I'm an agency owner with Country Financial Insurance here in Athens over on Prince Avenue. Blessed to have the opportunity to sponsor this room and introduce our speaker. And so I want to tell you a little bit about Brad Tucker. So Brad's supposed to be retired, but he's not retired.
Right.
So I don't know how that works, but congratulations on that.
I said I'm retired. My wife said, no, you're not.
But Brad, look, I'm not going to steal his show. He's been involved in multiple businesses, multiple consulting opportunities. If you haven't heard him speak before, some of you I know have before, he's phenomenal. He's going to add value to your business. I think, too, one thing about Brad that's phenomenal is that he adds value to your business, but also as an employee, he adds value to you as an employee. He adds value to you as a business owner. And I think you're going to see the title might be a little deceiving on exit strategy because he's also going to help you build your business so you have a good exit strategy, which I think is a phenomenal way of looking at it. So, again, let's give it up for Brad Tucker. Yep.
Sam, thank you for sponsoring the room. We appreciate it. I wouldn't be standing here without Country Financial and other insurance companies like Country. Yeah, in one of my previous lives, I had a collision repair business, and we were a direct relationship with Country. And you know, you gotta love the people who pay your bills. So welcome to all of you who. This is the outlier session, right? Okay, and I say that for a couple of reasons. Oh, and by the way, the camera's back here, and I only have one, and so I'm supposed to stay glued to this podium. That's probably not going to work, but we'll see. So for a couple of reasons. Number one, you know, you guys are here, and we're hearing all these things about how to grow your business and how to grow sales and how to become stronger in finance. And this is the class where the guy says, this is how you get out. Well, that doesn't seem to fit with the rest of this, but you may be surprised. The other thing is, I've already discovered that I'm the outlier here because apparently I'm the AARP quota hire for today's presentation. I think I've got 20 years on every other speaker in this place today, so thanks for putting up with an old man. So the conversation today is why you need an exit strategy right now, even if you're not planning to leave. And again, you know, we're thinking, exit strategies? Well, the real secret to this is that companies that utilize the tools that I'm going to discuss with you that are necessary to build a high-quality, high-value exit are companies that in their everyday activities are high-growth, high-profitability companies with strong employees and strong culture. So the very things that make it more profitable and effective for you to be able to leave are the things that make your company better operating, better performing, and a better place to work every day. So why, you know, since I'm asking a question here, why do you need an exit strategy right now? What do y'all think?
It increases the value of your company.
Okay.
You have to have the end in mind to know where you're going.
Okay. Boy, I'll tell you what. See, I'm going to leave and I'm going to quit talking, and maybe occasionally I'll do something like this, and I'll click something. So the first thing that came to my mind is, you know, you are not immortal. And the trick about that is we know we're not immortal, but we don't know how not immortal we are. Right? So you never really understand what the finish line looks like. And as we go through this, we'll see why that's important. That's one for me. How many of you want to envision your last day in this particular plane, and you're on your way from your office to the office of one of your senior leaders, and you keel over dead, and they come and they take your body away? Is that how you want to spend your last day on this planet or on this plane? Probably not. Right? So we need to do more than just say, I don't want to work till the day I die. So that's kind of a catch-all category right there. But boy, there's lots of different kinds. Family changes, health changes. What if all of a sudden, and you know, we think about exit strategies, but what if all of a sudden your health changes? And sometimes it can change pretty badly. And what happens if all of a sudden you have to take a 3-week, 6-week, 6-month rest of your life leave of absence from your business? Is it ready? Can it continue to provide income for you and your family and your employees and their families? Oftentimes we're not set up for that because we're still working on that first thing. We still think we're immortal. And that's the difference between a 59-year-old guy having this conversation with you and a 39-year-old guy, is the 39-year-old guy thinks he's immortal and the 59-year-old worked out this morning because I'm trying not to die. So, but there are a lot of things that fall into that category. And it kind of speaks to the notion that your exit may be sudden and it may not be by your choice. So having a plan in place is absolutely critical so that the business can survive beyond your immediate involvement. How many of you in this room own your company? How many of you in this room don't work hard? Right? You've spent a lot of time and energy, you've spent your own capital, your sweat, your family's made sacrifices so that you can build value in a company. You owe it to them and to yourself to maximize and preserve that value. And then, this is the one that I think really caused me to go into what I'm doing now and to help people with things like this. I bought my last business to sell it. The day I bought it, I intended to have an exit strategy, and I planned it. And I had a 15-year window. I figured, okay, 50 years old now, 65, math works, I'll own my real estate, everything's good. 4 years into that 15 years, I got my first offer on the business. But from the time I got intentional about actually turning an offer into a sale, it took 3.5 years from first contact to close. I had 4 different potential buyers before the right set of numbers and circumstances came along. And I had a business that had pretty much everything that we're going to show in this presentation already in place. And it still took 3.5 years from first offer to exit. So start now. In fact, if you're starting a business or you just started a business, great time to start planning your exit, just because you don't know how long it's going to take. And as we go through some of these things, you'll see that some exits take longer than others. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. All right, so there are several different kinds of exits. There's actually a ton of different kinds of exits, but the most common ones that we see, this is one of my favorite ones up front, absentee ownership. You don't sell your business. You don't really leave your business. You just leave the day-to-day operation. Retirement in the traditional sense of the word. How many of you would like to, at some point, no longer be responsible for the day-to-day operation of your business, but still get a check? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Another one that comes up a lot of the time is succession by family. Yeah, I think a lot of us, if we have children or relatives who want to stay in the business and have built the business with us, we want to ensure a smooth transition for them so that they have the assets and the tools that they need to be successful. And at the same time, we can continue to preserve our income, just in case our kids decided all of a sudden they didn't like us anymore and wanted to cut us out of the business. But that would never happen. And then a third traditional way is sale. And there's a few different ways that can go. You've got a couple of internal sales. If you have business partners, they may be your first option. Your employees may be an option. And then open market is a way a lot of people go, is I'm selling to a competitor, to a consolidator, to someone else who's interested. And then this last one is investors. And the reason I list that as differently from the open market, there are going to be cases where you can sell or you can take an equity investment to help grow your company further and still retain an ownership share and maybe some day-to-day responsibility. But it gives you what is generally referred to as a second bite of the apple, which is you can grow that business after having sold a significant part of it, and then turn around and sell it again to a larger group or take it public and wind up being able to take a second cash out. Now, there are a couple of different things that I think are important to look at with each of these. Succession by family, that can be a pretty straightforward process, but from a management standpoint, but it has some significant consequences from a tax standpoint, and it can have some significant consequences if you have multiple heirs. And I'll give you an example that happened to some people I know. They had a successful business, family owned, 3 children. 2 of the children were active in the business, the third one was not. The surviving parent passed away a little more suddenly than might have been expected, and they did not have an appropriate succession plan in place. So what do you think happened? Fighting over money? Astonishing. Absolutely right. The non-participating child wanted their cash share of the estate on the spot. There was no provision through insurance or other types of equity or leverage to be able to split out 33% of the estate. The only way to do it was to liquidate the real estate that the business sat on. It's now becoming a multifamily housing development. But the family business is gone. The kids got a portion of the value that the business was capable of generating, but only a portion because all they got was the value of the real estate. No value for an ongoing business because there was no ongoing business. So if succession to family is a goal, it's imperative that you establish both tax and cash flow planning to make sure that everybody who is involved or not involved as heirs can be treated appropriately and still have a going business. Partners, how many of you have partners in your business? How many of you, keep your hand up for just a second, please. This is the afternoon calisthenics portion of the program. How many of you with partners have a buy-sell agreement in place? Keep your hand up. Okay. Most of our hands went down. Thank you. Does everybody know what a buy-sell agreement is? It's pretty simple. It is what it says. It stipulates the terms under which a surviving or subsequent partner can buy out the existing equity partners. Now, that has to be funded in most cases. And it has to be funded in such a way that it's relatively cost effective, because in most cases, your partner doesn't necessarily have enough money to buy you out. And that's where things like keyman insurance come into play. That's where things, excuse me. Oh, yep. Got it. It's a huge thing. You need to have a specific agreement in terms of the price of the business. Is it being sold for book value? Is it being sold for retail value? Under what circumstances? Because again, you're not only trying to protect your partner and yourself, but you're trying to protect your family and make sure that their income is protected in that situation. And partners get along about a lot of things, again, until maybe we start talking about money. So the time to do that is not when all of a sudden you decide, well, I think I want to get out of the business next month. I will tell you this, and this is further down my presentation, but I have taken this as axiomatic in my life. He who has the least to lose controls the situation. So if you put yourself in a negotiation when you have everything to lose and the opposing party has little to lose, you will lose. You will wind up negotiating a bad deal because you have no choice. Employees. I know people who would love to create generationally sustainable companies where their employees become owners. And that's a laudable goal. But what happens if your employees don't want to become owners? Not everybody who works for you may want to be an owner. Not everyone's an entrepreneur. Not everyone wants that responsibility. If you've got a company that is big enough to have a number of employees that are potential owners, you have a company that has some value. How are the employees going to pay you for the business when they take it over? When I said it takes longer than you think to create a good exit, this is a really key example of that. Generally speaking, if you're going to set up something like an employee stock ownership plan, that takes about 10 years from start to execution, because it takes that long for your employees to be able to build up enough value in the account for them to be able to buy out a meaningful portion. And you may still have to do seller financing in that case anytime you sell to a group of employees. But if you do it right and you plan far enough ahead, you can avoid 100% seller financing. Remember, an ESOP is basically just a 401k where the employees are buying stock in your company instead of buying stock in Exxon. So they have to have enough faith in your company that they're willing to put their retirement on the line. And again, that's why that knocks a lot of employees out, because they don't want to take that risk. So those are some things to think about when you're selling to employees. So I promised you that there are some activities that good businesses do whether they're looking for an exit or not. And here they are. How many of you are your business? So when you sell your business, what's gone? Who's the only person who's leaving? You, right? So what have you got left? You really don't have anything. So the first key activity when it comes to creating a good exit strategy and at the same time creating a scalable, high growth, high profitability business is you have got to create a business that can run without you. And that means stop doing everything yourself and teach somebody else how to do it. How many of you keep your books in a shoebox? Sure about that? All right. How many of you use QuickBooks as the primary system? All right, cool. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, QuickBooks is the worst small business software on the planet except for all the other ones. The scientific way of saying that is it sucks less. But it is sure enough better than nothing if you're using it. But I will tell you, when I sold my last business, the people that bought it brought KPMG Pete Marwick in, and they spent 45 days on my books. And their deal was, and they were very upfront with this, if the numbers that you presented in your letter of intent were off from your actual numbers by 5%, they walked. And that's not abnormal. That is standard operating procedure. So, yeah, and clean, transparent books means a couple of different things. It means if you're paying for an airplane or a boat, stop doing that. Just play it as it lays. The more things that you cloud your books up with that are not legitimate business expenses, and I get that as small business owners, we need to work the tax codes the best way we can. You still have to create a situation where your books are immediately understandable and transparent to a potential buyer. Another reason and again, this is the exit version. Let's talk about the staying in business, growing, and being successful. If you don't have good books, you can't run your business to key performance indicators. And if you can't run your business to key performance indicators, my friend, you are winging it. And you can wing it, but you'll never make as much money. You'll never grow your business as quickly. as if you have processes and key performance indicators that you can track. And you know, most of what I know in my life, I learned because I did it wrong first. And one of my former business partners, who is a great person, but very old school, he said, Brad, I always figure I've got two piles of money. I've got one pile coming in, and I've got one pile going out. As long as the pile coming in is bigger than the pile going out, I figure I'm okay. And so I said, okay, yeah, you're teaching me, you're the boss, we'll do that. And it took me until I was 50 to really understand the value of running business by the numbers. And I got where the first day of the month, at the new month, I knew within a couple tenths of a percent what my gross profit numbers were, what the contributors were, and we made moves quickly. We corrected problems as soon as they arose. We didn't wait till the end of the year, look at our year-end financial statements, and say, wait a second, we made $100,000 less than we thought we were going to. So if you've got good books, you can run your business by the numbers, which means you can track it, which means you can hold yourself and people accountable for it. It's absolutely key. Another reason you need good books from a sales standpoint is that any buyer is going to want to see at least 3 years worth of clean history on your financials. And I don't want to get too granular on stuff like this because there's a whole nother discussion about how to maximize the value of your business for sale when it comes to some specific things you can do. But most businesses, when they do this, they get their 3 years worth of historical books and they show them to people and they say, this is what we've done. Well, that's great. But people are not buying what you've done. They're buying what you're capable of doing. And so one of the things that smart sellers do is they take that 3 years worth of historical books and they turn it into 5 years worth of forecast growth based on your historic growth. And now when you present to a buyer, you're not presenting them 3 years worth of history, you're presenting them 3 years worth of history and 5 years worth of future cash flow. And if we don't tell them what that is, they're just going to assume it's your historical number. And remember that almost every sale is a multiple of future cash flow. So if you're forecasting legitimate numbers that are higher, you're going to wind up with a higher exit. So another good reason to have good books, because it's the basis for your forecast. Training the next generation of leaders. If you're the only leader, we go back to the first problem, and you're gone, what's the buyer buying? As you've heard all day today, the real value in any organization is its people. Now, I would add to that its processes, but the people are the embodiment of the processes. You can have all the processes in the world, and if nobody executes them, you might as well not have any at all. So, organizations that plan on surviving beyond you and having a great value at the time you exit have got to have a group of leaders that can take the business from where you are forward. But now that's of no use to us if we're actually going to stay, right? You know, a great generation of leaders beyond us, wow, I can go home. I don't have to spend every minute of every day keeping an eye on everything in my business because I've got people that know what to do and that can take the company farther. The other thing is, it's the height of arrogance for us as owners to think we have the only answers to any questions. In fact, I guarantee you, the older we get, the fewer answers we've got. So it's imperative that we continue to focus on developing our people, whether it's for a good exit or it's for growing our business in profitability and revenue. So you just listened to a great story of the largest multifamily student housing developer in the country talk about a growth strategy. And I thought he made a compelling argument, so I'm certainly not going to try to follow him with much. I will tell you that the philosophies that I espoused in my businesses you could say it's this simple. Grow, 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 grow. And when I couldn't grow it anymore for some reason, we'd stop and we'd take a look and we'd figure out why we couldn't grow it. We'd fix that and we'd grow it some more. Now, pretty obvious why that's valuable to a company staying in business, right? If we're growing it and we're growing it right, what else are we growing? Bottom line. But what about for a sale? Or what about for an exit? Why is a growth strategy important for an exit? Because, absolutely, if your company is completely self-actualized, if it's doing everything that can be done in its industry and its market segment, it's not worth a lot to an acquirer. Because an acquirer at the heart of it thinks they can do it, knows they can do it better than you can. They see growth and opportunity beyond what you've been able to achieve, whether it's because they have access to capital, whether it's because they have access to markets, whether it's because they have access to people and other resources. They think they can do better than you are. So if your business doesn't have any growth runway in front of it, it's not going to be worth nearly as much to you or to subsequent owners. So again, good business today, good business for exit, has a growth focus. Valuation, I think this is huge. This is one of the best lessons I've learned through selling businesses. You don't control the price of your business. The buyer controls the price of your business. Whoever wants to acquire it is going to be the one who sets a price. You can take it or not. What you get to set as the seller of your business is its enterprise value, its value as a going concern. And depending on what it is you've got and how hot the market is for your business at a specific time, people will either pay you a premium to your enterprise value, or a discount to your enterprise value. So that's the thing you control, is what is the business worth as a going concern. And that goes back to things like its earnings and its growth. So the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out how much is your business worth as a going concern. And if you have no intention of selling, if you have no intention, if you are 35 years old and you are 20 years away from even thinking about this, you're still well advised to get a professional valuations expert to come in and put a value on your business. Why? What if you don't like the number? You know, I mean, I had a number. I'm sure most of you have a number that's kind of sitting there in the back of your mind that if I had this much money in the bank, I probably wouldn't work anymore. Well, where are we going to get that from? I gave up on the manna from heaven, and I don't have enough rich relatives to get me to my number. So we had to do it some other way, and chances are it's the business that you've worked so hard to build value in. But let's say your magic number is $5 million. And you find out, and we don't necessarily know what our business is worth as a going concern a lot of times because we're too busy running it. But what if we find out our business is only worth $2 million? Well, that's a problem if we need 5, right? Well, if we find that out 6 months before we want to go to market or go to the house, we're kind of stuck with that, aren't we? But if we find that out far enough ahead, and the nice thing about a good enterprise valuation is not only will it tell you what the enterprise value of your business is, but it will tell you where its weaknesses are. Because those are the things that hurt its market value against its enterprise value. So if you get a good valuation, now you can use that as a basis to say, okay, I am at $2 million, I want to get to $5 million. We've now identified some of the weaknesses that keep us from getting there. Now I can go to work and fix those things. The last thing I would say about this, don't be penny wise and dollar foolish when it comes to the people that help you design and execute your exit strategy. Right? Okay, so you got to know this about me. I'm a walking bag of homilies, all right? That's what happens when you get older. One of the ones that I live by is, if you think good help is expensive, try incompetent help. Our last transaction, I had a team that I have used before, and we were up against, and this is not me, I had nothing to do with this. We were up against 5 legal firms, and we were up against a PE-backed consolidator that had businesses, 1,100 locations in 38 states. And we won the negotiation. We won we won the asset purchase agreement. We won the lease agreement. There is no reason in the world that should have happened. And it sure wasn't because I was good at it. But I had really, really good people. And the time to identify those is not when you're going to market. It's years before. If you don't have the best CPA you can afford, go find one. If they're not doing things for you beyond just keeping score, if they're not helping you develop a future-looking forecast of your financial capabilities, then you need to be talking to somebody else. You need to know a gifted transactional attorney. And when the time comes, you need industry-specific expertise from your M&A and brokerage people, not a general business broker who sells dry cleaners and construction firms and aerospace companies. So why don't you have an exit strategy right now? All right. Oh, does everybody in the room have an exit strategy? Okay. So why not?
I'm not a business owner, but I'd say most folks probably don't think big enough.
Well, that's a thing.
So it depends on the point in time you're at in your business. You're at the beginning, you're in the middle of the, where. I mean, that's
Okay.
a mistake you make as well, is
Sure.
not having it from the beginning.
Yep.
The lottery ticket count?
Some people's retirement program. Yep. Scratch off K. Yeah, there we go. So here are a couple. Excuse me.
The next to the last is one of the biggest ones I've heard. What people go, I'm not looking to sell this year, I'm looking to sell next year, so I'll get money then.
Yep. Yep. Let me tell you, nobody wants to buy your business when business is bad. It's a little thing, but it's something to think about. But the first thing is, this is my business. I built it. I grew it. I'm not leaving. I couldn't even contemplate that. That's years away. The second one happens all the time. Most of us are so busy running our business that we don't think about those larger strategic things. We're busy making sure this client's happy, that employee is not leaving, this piece of software is working when it wasn't working yesterday. But that kind of goes back to the first one. If you are handling all of your HR, if you are handling all of your IT, if you're doing all those things, if you're the one talking to every customer, then I think there's another issue there. You should be doing the things that nobody else can. And the first thing that the business owner needs to do that nobody else can is think about the future. That's nobody else's job but yours. But you've got people who can handle the IT issues, and you've got people who can talk to your customers. There's still going to be times when you need to too. But I'm too busy to think about this now means I'm focused on the wrong things. And it's almost always operational. Not looking far enough down the road. I think we've covered that. And then this last one, it's kind of a little bit oddball at the end of this, and that's purchase funding. And that goes back to what we were talking about with the ESOPs. It takes time for people to get together the money to allow you to exit. And so if we're not preparing for that, and if all of a sudden your health changes and your partner, you need them to buy you out. If there's no mechanism for funding, it's not going to happen. Whoop. Okay, so let's talk for a second just about how not to do this. First thing is, if you don't have a plan, the second thing, we've kind of touched on this before, but I want to reiterate it. Don't let circumstances force your hand. Be proactive. Have a plan in place. Because if you wait until your health forces something, your family forces something, you're always going to be on the back foot. I've done this, and so I can tell you, don't ever do this. And that is, your competitor comes in one day, and he says, you know, hey, I'm thinking about growing. I'd like to talk to you about buying your business. And you go, well, okay, if the numbers are right, I might sell it. Well, what's the first thing he's going to want to see? You want to see your numbers, right? And who is this person again? It's your competitor. Okay, and so they're going to get to crawl through your business and take a look at your books and see how you do things and figure all this stuff out. And then maybe they'll make you an offer, and probably won't be a kind of number you're going to be happy with. And so nothing happens, and off they go, and now they know all about your business. So let's not do that. And then the last thing is, selling when business is bad. I get it. I mean, everybody likes making money when the money's there to be made. And nobody likes running a business that's not making money. It's no fun. But it's even less fun selling a business that's not making money. Because a multiple of 0 is what? Okay. You see, you guys are all math majors. It's fantastic. So let's talk about how to do it. That's more fun than talking about how not to. And this is something that I talk to clients about all the time, and it's not just about exits, it's about everything. The first thing you have to do is you have to get in a quiet place by yourself and spend a little bit of time, and this is the question that I always ask. On the day you leave, whatever it is you're doing, your job, your business, whatever it is, because this doesn't just apply to being a business owner. On the day you leave your office, you leave your building, you turn the key on the front door, and you look around, and you say, this is exactly what I had in mind when I started this. That's going to be a pretty cool day, isn't it? What does that look like? And I mean, what exactly does it look like? Not platitudes, but how much money do you have in the bank? What's your company worth? How many employees does it have? What markets does it serve? What products does it offer? What does a job well done look like? If you don't know what the destination is, you got little or no chance of getting there. And frankly, you won't even know when you got there because you didn't know what the destination was. So start out by really getting a handle on what your job well done looks like. And then plan on the time. Again, it's going to take a lot more time than you thought it was going to. So if you haven't gotten started, tomorrow's a good day. And again, the biggest thing you need to do tomorrow is just take a little time and figure out what the goal looks like. Again, get that valuation. Find out what the enterprise value of your business is. If the numbers don't add up to where you wanted them to be, you need a plan to get them there. And Chad gave us a great way to do that right before lunch, right? He told us how to increase our profit next year by 50%. And then, as I've said before, create processes and people that can run the business without you. And you know, one of the greatest lessons you can learn, and one of the greatest lessons I've learned, is that I'm not the smartest person in the room. And for years in my businesses, as I grew in the same field, I felt like, you know, I was the senior person. I had more experience. I'd accomplished more, so I knew how to do it. And then at 50, we sold that business, and I had to go figure out what to do with myself, which is a fun thing to do at any age, right? But particularly 50 is a nice round number. And I bought a business, and I did not, I will say this, and those of you who know me from the Collision Center years, I always said this, I am the last person in Athens, Georgia you want touching your car, because I don't know how to fix it. My people, on the other hand, were the first people in Athens, Georgia you wanted touching your car, because they did know. And the incredibly liberating thing I learned from that was that when you let other people do the things that they're good at, and you step away from trying to put your hand on everything, keep your fingers on everything, have input on everything, it is, God, it's freeing. It is wonderful. Your days get easier, your attitude gets better, you wind up with better people around you, because guess what? You were running off to good ones because you weren't letting them grow and develop. When you stop doing that and you start recognizing that what you need to be married to are outcomes and not processes, then you begin to build the processes and the people that can run the business without you. And when I say get married to outcomes, what I always used to tell my people is, here are the non-negotiables. Here are our core values. These are the things that we're not going to compromise on. You know, we're not going to play games with our customers. We're never going to issue anything less than top quality work. And anytime we have a disagreement with a customer, when in doubt, the customer's right. Those are non-negotiable. How you get there. Oh, and the other thing is, here are our KPIs. Here are the numbers we have to hit, right? This is the gross profit margin we've got to hit. This is our labor efficiency. These are the key drivers of our business. Now, you guys have been here since 9 o'clock this morning. You're probably getting tired of hearing the same things, right? You know, we're focused on the key drivers of our business. That's not the first time you've heard that today. But if you let your people know what the non-negotiables are, and you let them know what the key drivers are and the KPIs you have to hit, and then what I tell them is how you get there is up to you. I'm process agnostic. Now, I'll work with you on it. You can bounce ideas off of me, give you feedback. And hey, if it doesn't work, we'll take a look at it, we'll fix it, we'll try a different process. You will not suffer for having a process that didn't work. So, empower your people, quit being the smartest person in the room, and you will create processes and people that can run the business without you. Again, we talked about this. I won't belabor the point. Hire the best people you can find and vet them thoroughly. Don't get sold. Talk to people who have been there and done that with these same groups of people. So this next one, again, do as Brad says, not as Brad has done. Maintain confidentiality. Benjamin Franklin said that 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. And he was right. I have done this both ways. I've been through enough buy sells that we did when we sold the dealership here in town back in 2011. I said to my partner, I said, I want to tell our people. I've been in that situation where it's deny, 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 and it's frustrating, and it creates anxiety and stress. I want to tell them. So he said, okay, go ahead, tell them. So I did. We brought everybody together. We had an entire company meeting, said this is what we're going to do. We wanted you to be aware of it. So it took us 9 months from the first buyer to the close. We went through 3 buyers, a federal lawsuit from one of our franchisors enjoining us from selling to one of our buyers. And yeah, I mean, it was awful heartburn. One of the buyers turned out to be the devil himself. And we lost people, we lost business. It was a train wreck. And guess what? They weren't any less anxious and any less miserable than they would have been the other way. So when we sold the collision center, I told my wife, my lawyer, my CPA, and my M&A advisor. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my kids. I didn't tell anybody. And 3.5 years from first offer to close, my people were flabbergasted when I told them a week before the close that we had sold the business. And that was after the APA had been signed. All right, so it was done. Now, shocking to your people, but we all know this. This is as true for us as it is for our employees. Actually, it's probably even more so, but we don't want to admit it. We hate uncertainty. When you don't know what's going to happen, what do you assume is going to happen? Yes, the worst imaginable. In fact, I don't know about you, but I can spin worst case scenarios for myself that will make you crawl under the table you're sitting at right now. Stephen King cannot write better worst case scenarios than I can in my own pea little brain. So just keep your employees out of that loop. They don't need to know. What they need to see is a finished product. This next one is another big deal. Be patient. You know, when people see an exit, when they see where they want to go, man, they want to get there now. But things don't happen now. All right? They do when you don't want them to. You know, if you need an extra 6 months, things happen yesterday. But in an exit, things are going to take the time they take. And there are always going to be things that slow that process down. And you need to be patient. The other thing is, you need to be able to walk away. There is an entire group of business people out there who believe that the ideal strategy for acquisition is to go through the entire process and then put you in the closing office with the attorneys, and there's a word for it. They want to give you a haircut at the close. This happens often enough that there's a great slang term in the M&A business for that. Can anybody guess what a haircut at the close looks like? You know, we've taken another look at this, and we're not sure this is the right move for us at this moment. Now, that's a hell of a thing to hear as you're sitting there getting ready to sign. You've already put the down payment on the boat. You know, and all of a sudden, the down payment just walked out the door. So be willing to walk if the deal is not right. And then the corollary to that, pretty self-explanatory. Don't spend the money until it's in your hand. That is a dangerous, dangerous thing. We see it all the time with people looking at an exit, is they get the offer, they've signed the letter of intent, they go put the down payment on the boat or the plane or the mistress or whatever it is you're putting your down payments on, and then the deal doesn't happen. Or worse, you become absentee and you quit running your business. Because one of the things that you'll see in any asset purchase agreement, any letter of intent, is that you covenant to continue to run the business in the normal course of operation. And you continue to make good decisions, and the business's results remain at least consistent from letter of intent to close. And if that doesn't happen, then they've got an out. I think I have an Italian clicker here. All right, so, and then here's the last piece of the how to do it for a successful exit. And that is, what are you going to do the day after you've exited your business? the notion of the answer to that being not a thing, that sounds good. And it is good. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. But then what? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of the main reasons that I do what I do now is because it is way more fun to learn and grow and interact and to add value and contribute than it is to sit on the back porch and read junk fiction and drink good bourbon. That's not to say there isn't a place for doing those things, but you can't do it 24/7. It'll shorten your life. Also, if you have a significant other who has supported you in their activities for so many years, they deserve better than you being a lump on a log, getting in the way of them trying to do what they're trying to do. So have a plan, maintain relevance to your own goals and to the things that you want to do and accomplish. So my parting thoughts on this. I bought my business, the last one, in 2011. And I had a 15-year plan. So that means that in 2026, I intend to sell my business. My business cards do not say Georgia Square Collision on them because I do not own that business. 7 years into my 15-year plan, the largest consolidator in the industry came into town and made me an offer that was the right number and the right circumstances. You don't know when that's going to happen. So you have to be ready for it to happen tomorrow. Because the real key is that a successful exit is not about time, it's about valuation. Yes, I'd love to exit on exactly the day I want to exit. But the real thing we're looking for is the value that allows us to go do whatever it is we want to do next. And you don't get to dictate that because, as we said, you as the seller don't get to dictate the price of your business. You get to dictate its value. The actual purchase price is determined by the buyer. So you need to have a business that is set up so that on the day that buyer comes to town, you're ready to go. And the last thing is, your business, and it's a little more complicated than this, but at the end of the day, you have one asset, and that's your business. And you get to sell that rascal one time. You do not get to go back 6 months to a year later and say, you know what, I should have gotten another $500,000 for that business. I mean, you can. God bless you. Go back, tell the buyer, I think I'd like another payment. You may be better off going home sipping bourbon, reading junk fiction. So, since you only get to do this once with each business, now mind you, if you're a good serial entrepreneur, then you'll go start another one and you'll do the same thing with that. But you have one asset, you get to sell it one time. So do it right, because you work too hard to do it wrong. So, thanks for putting up with all that. What do you think about that?
You have time for a quick question?
I have time for anything you'd like.
Valuation is key from what I've seen. How do you pick a consultant or attorney or whatever to come up with a fair value? What do you look for?
The first thing I look for is relevant industry experience, because each industry has its own exigencies. I mean, you're going to have some industries where, and they almost all fall back to an earnings multiple, but some of them, when you have industry-specific experience, they will know what the triggers and the pitfalls are better than a generalist. So a couple places you can go to CPA firms that have specific experience in a certain field, in a relevant field. You can go to M&A specialists who have specific experience with transactions. You can go to transactional attorneys that have specific experience. I have an attorney friend who does the sale of doctor's practices. There's a guy who can get you a valuation. If you're selling a practice, he knows what the drivers are, what makes them more attractive, what makes them less attractive. So I would say industry-specific experience first and foremost.
So being in a niche industry would not necessarily be something we could find somebody.
Well, you're in a niche industry, but you're in a larger industry
Yeah.
as well. So, if you are in the greater construction industry, there are, at the end of the day, more similarities than differences. Whereas if you go talk to somebody who primarily sells retail operations, they're not going to have the same kind of feel for it.
So that's not a insurmountable issue.
No, no. And really, at the end of the day, we are rarely as unique as we think we are. We may be offering a unique product or service in a field, but we are still in a field that has certain fundamental similarities between businesses in that field. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Brad, I had a question, and it was just something I wanted to clarify. You said that you recommend getting married to outcomes, not processes. You said you're process agnostic.
Yep.
Is there a risk there with that person that's executing that role, doing it their own process, and then if they get up and leave, you having to go in and redefine that process or find exactly the right person that does it exactly that last person did it? Or how do you marry that too? Because obviously processes are important to your business.
Oh, critical.
And how do you
Absolutely
marry
critical.
which process to allow an employee to kind of take the reins on, and which ones, are essential to the way we do things?
Great question. So, the Georgia Square Collision Way, or the Look Ahead Consulting Way, or the Sign Brothers Way, is the process by which we do business. It is non-negotiable. If you're going to work here, you're going to execute that process. Now, just because I'm not the guy that invented it doesn't mean that everybody isn't going to use it. Right? The way is the absolute best method we have found for doing business to this point. Now, the way is non-negotiable, but the way is not sacred. Do not get married to your processes. They should be under constant review, and you should always be looking for ways to improve the way. And I love people to suggest things about how we can do the way differently. And I want to hear them, and we want to vet them and embrace them. But until we change the way to the new way, we're going to keep doing it the way. And it doesn't matter who the person is. The way is the way. All right, so we want people to help design it, have input on it, and we expect them to execute it. But that means that the way survives the individual who created it, of necessity. So build the way, and what I'm doing is, when I say I'm process agnostic, I'm saying I'm not going to tell you what the way is. I want you to bring me the way, and we'll vet it and approve it. Because if I tell you what the way is, and I say this is the way and do it or else, are you going to do it?
Yeah.
You might. Are you going to do it well?
Maybe.
Are you going to do it on days when you're tired and angry and you had a fight with your wife before you came to work? Probably not. But if you created the way, and you got recognition for creating the way, and you contributed to the way, and made it the best way it can be, are you going to do it? And can you change it and fix it and improve it? Way better than you ever could if you had it forced on you. And if you want to know who can help you really determine how to create the way and how to improve the way, I have a simple project for you. Go to every one of your employees and ask them these two simple questions. You do it by email, do it by a SurveyMonkey survey, use whatever mechanism you like to use. And it can be within a department, and it can be the whole company, because the way is comprised of lots of little ways, right? So, ask them these two questions. Number one, if you could change one thing about our process that would make it better, what would it be? And the second question is, why? And if you ask that, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get some people who don't engage. They don't want to play that game. And that's fine. They're not strategic thinkers. They want to execute the task. They don't want to create the process. And that's fine. We need those people in our organization. And then you'll get people who will come up with an idea, and some of them will be great, and some of them will be kind of squirrely, and some of them will be somewhere in between. But those are your strategic thinkers, and you need to identify those people, because those are your next generation of leaders. Because it's way easier to find people who can execute a task than it is to find people who can create or think strategically and down the road. So the earlier we identify and nurture and love those people, the more effective that our organizations will be, and the more prepared we'll be for when that person comes along. Because when you build a high-quality, high-profit, strong culture organization with a history of growth, people find you, you become attractive, you become a target. You know, we did not sell because somebody came along and said, you know, I just heard Brad Tucker was a great guy. Because, boy, they'd have been wrong. But, no, they heard that we were the #1 operator in the market. We had more share. We ran at scale that nobody else could run. We were the only place in town that could turn volume in 3 days at quality. That's attractive. We had better processes than anybody else. So when you do these things and you have those, and guess what? You know how many of our repair processes I invented? I'll give you yeah, have you ever heard the statement, there's a non-zero chance? Okay, no. This was a 0 chance. I didn't do a single one of them. I had great people that created great processes, and then we execute. Long answer, sorry.
I was gonna say time, but I
Yep.
have one quick question.
Yes, sir?
So, in the body shop business, including the center,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a business where there's multiple other people in town.
Yep, 22 when I bought it.
Right, exactly. So, and you're doing a process that, price-wise, not something people necessarily shop per se, especially when you're on the insurance side, and you get whoever's going in for the claim.
You know how much a collision repair costs? 2 words. No, my deductible. That's how much a collision repair costs.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.